Hello, everybody. How are we today?
Hello.
Okay, I'm just going to post a quick message in the Zalo group to let everybody know, and then we'll get started. Okay, so before we begin, I've just got Hannah, I've got your feedback from the debate ready. So for your so as the first speaker, your organization was scored a 1 because there was only one argument given, so there was nothing to organize. But as the fifth speaker, I scored you a 4 because you organized the arguments very well in your closing statements. For your arguments, I scored you a 3 because they were pretty good arguments, and the argument you delivered as the first speaker, that was a good one. For your evidence, as first speaker, I scored you a 2 because you gave some good examples in your speech, but you need more evidence that you can cite. So according to this person or according to this study, so on and so forth. So we need more evidence that's come from other people and less examples. And as the fifth speaker, I scored you a 1 because you didn't cite any, or you didn't give any evidence in your closing remarks. Your rebuttals weren't required. And your presentation, I scored you a 3 because you were quite lively, you're very expressive with the way you delivered your speech as both first and final speaker. So
Hi, teacher.
Hello, Annie. How are you?
I'm great.
That's good. So yeah, that's your feedback, Hannah. And for today's lesson, everybody, we're going to go back over what we looked at in the last lesson. So what am I doing here? So we're going to go into a little bit more detail and point out the different sections of some of the speeches to give you a better idea of, to give you guys a better, not that one. To give you guys a better idea of how you should structure a debate speech. So we'll start with first proposition. So going through this list again, we look at the first 2 sections. So the introduction and the opening statement. So what we need to do for these parts of the speech. So we need to greet the audience, the judges, and the opposing team, clearly state the topic of the debate, and we need to present our team's position, let everyone know that we're the affirmative team. We need to provide a clear an easy to understand and a short, simple statement that outlines our main argument that the team will be supporting. And then we need to clearly explain the importance and the relevance of the topic. So why are we debating about this? Why should you believe our team? Like, what's so important about this topic? So let's have a look now. And of course, I'll also point out the signposting. So really making it obvious about which part of the speech you're up to. Because I had a few students in a few other debates and I honestly couldn't tell when one argument finished and the next argument started. So when you do give your multiple arguments, you need to make it really, really obvious about when you are changing topics, essentially. So let's have a look here. So, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed judges and respected opponents. So we're politely and respectfully greeting the audience, the judges, and the other team. I stand before you today as the first speaker of the affirmative team to argue in favor of the motion that the use of renewable energy sources should be significantly increased. So just in these first couple of sentences here, we've greeted everybody respectfully. We have let everybody know which team we're on. Even though the moderator will announce, like I did during your debate, please welcome the first speaker of the proposition team. So they know, but it's still good for you to be very clear about absolutely everything. And then, of course, we cite the motion that we're arguing. And then we give the importance of why we think or why we're arguing this topic. So we firmly believe that this step is crucial in addressing the pressing challenges posed by climate change and securing a sustainable future for generations to come. So that's that's making this topic theme very important in this debate because we're giving a very, very big reason for it. And back onto signposting. Onto the signposting part. Now let me now present our arguments in support of this proposition. So I'm letting them know I've finished with my introduction and now I'm moving on to presenting my arguments. So be as obvious as possible with your speech because yeah, there's the audience and the judges are about to listen to a lot of information and yeah, so they're going to need you to make it easy for them. So we move on to our first argument here, and I want you to pay attention to the teal paragraph structure that we use here. So we start with our signposting. So firstly, up is onto his first argument. It is undeniable that the world is facing a climate crisis of unprecedented proportions. So we're setting up with a strong topic sentence. We go on to explain now, provide a bit more detail. Greenhouse gas emissions from fossil fuels have led to rising global temperatures, extreme weather events, and the loss of biodiversity. So that's kind of a evidence and explanation because we're providing examples of what's happening here, but we're also explaining the problem in more detail. By significantly increasing the use of renewable energy sources such as solar, wind, and hydroelectric power, we can substantially reduce our carbon footprint and curb the adverse impacts of climate change. So again, in this speech, we're using examples as evidence here. So we're suggesting solutions, the types of renewable energy that we can use. And then we finish up with our linking sentence. So we tie this issue back to the main topic of the debate. So transitioning to renewables is not only environmentally responsible, but also economically advantageous as it opens doors to innovation and job creation in the rapidly expanding green energy sector. So we've tied it back to the motion. So transitioning to renewables, it's environmentally responsible and it lets us know, it lets the audience know that this is going back to the topic. So again, you're going to hear me repeat this a lot, but be as obvious as possible with your speech. Don't leave anything up to the judges or the audience to interpret for themselves. You basically have to treat them like little kids and tell them exactly what you mean. So again, signposting here. Secondly, we go into our second issue. So that was our first, this is our second. Next, our second argument is like national security and like making sure that we have a stable source of energy. So we've quoted we've given our second argument. And again, it goes through like a teal paragraph. Next, we've got our third argument. So we're also now going to talk about the improved public health outcomes. So fossil fuels create air pollution, which affects our lungs, and that can lead to heart and blood vessel diseases. So, and again, note that the teal paragraph structure. And we will go back up, have a look at a bit more of what we need in this speech. So we've had a look at the introduction, the opening statement. We've given definitions and context. So we've talked about why it's such an important issue, and that's appeared in each of our arguments. We're giving each argument a stake. So we're saying fossil fuels can lead to air pollution. That will get you sick. If we transition to natural energy, that won't be a problem. We'll get better. We'll keep our citizens healthier, basically. So we're trying to make these issues seem as important as possible. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Excellent. So we've gone through points and arguments. And if we notice there, so we've given the three or four main arguments to support our team's position. We've provided evidence, although in your speeches, you should definitely have more evidence that you can cite and talk about in your speech. So, for example, according to the national government's Department of Energy and Resources, or whatever it's called, this study shows that fossil fuels contribute to this much air pollution, and that can have this effect on people's lungs. So yeah, really clear with our evidence. And then as well, this is mostly to do with the linking sentences, but we need to clearly explain the reasoning behind each point and how it adds strength to our team's case. Next, we have the rebuttal preparation. So this is not actually the rebuttal itself, because no one from the other team has spoken yet. So we need to make sure, but we still need to make sure that we are, how do you say it? We still need to make sure that we're ahead of them. So we try to guess what they're going to say and try and take away their chance to weaken our case. And it also has the added benefit of showing that you understand the opposing side's point of view, but you still think your team has the stronger case, and you still think your team makes the better point. And then finally, we go on with the conclusion, where we summarize the main points and we restate our point of view. And then we also want to just reinforce the importance of our team's position and why it's going to be the best outcome. So let's have a look at that, the rebuttal preparation and the conclusion. So in anticipation of counter arguments, we recognize that some may claim that renewable energy sources are not as reliable or cost-effective as fossil fuels. So there might be some blackouts from time to time. The energy might cut out. It might be a bit more. It might be a bit more expensive than fossil fuels. So we are acknowledging those problems, but then we go on to give a reason as to why that's not an issue, or why that issue doesn't matter, essentially. So yeah, we're basically trying to stop them from having a chance to pick holes in our point of view. So, however, advancements in technology have significantly improved the efficiency and affordability of renewables. So we're already cancelling out these arguments. We're saying that the technology is there, it's a lot more efficient and reliable, and it's a lot more affordable now. Additionally, investing in renewable energy now will lead to long-term cost savings. So again, strengthening that case to show that it might be a little bit more expensive now, but in the long run, we're going to save a lot more money. So showing the good things about our side of the argument. And as well as the costs associated with environmental degradation and climate change impacts will be avoided. So they're saying that it's going to be better for the environment, and we're going to reduce the effects of climate change by adopting green energy. And here's our conclusion. In conclusion, increasing the use of renewable energy sources is not just an option, but a necessity in the face of the global climate crisis. So that was one of the very first things that we said in the first argument, was we're facing a global crisis. And so now we're saying renewable energy, like, we need to do this to help fight this crisis. By embracing clean, sustainable energy, we can safeguard our planet. So now we're going back to our 3 arguments. We're re-mentioning those. We can protect the planet and the environment. We can strengthen our energy security, so we're not relying on international imports of fuels and coal and things like that. And we're promoting public health. So that goes back to our 3rd argument of renewable energy stops, renewable energy will emit less greenhouse gases, and it'll protect people's health. We won't get sick, we won't get lung problems, things like that. The benefits of transitioning to renewable energy are vast and far-reaching, and it is our moral and practical duty to take decisive action. So again, like, there's way more good points than bad points for doing this, and we need to do this. Like, it's our duty as good people to take action and stop this problem. The time to act is now, and I urge you to support this motion to pave the way for a brighter and sustainable future. Thank you. So again, a call to action and trying to get the audience and the judges on our side. So we see how the first proposition speaker sets up a very strong case for our proposition team. Now let's take a look at the first opposition speaker. So we can see how the opposition speaker starts to set up the weakening of the proposition's case. Because remember, for the opposition team, they need to remind the audience of the burden of proof. So it is the proposition team's job to prove themselves correct, but it's not the opposition's job to prove themselves correct. It's the opposition's job to make you doubt the proposition team. So the opposition are playing offense, they're trying to attack, and the proposition are playing defense. They're trying to defend their point of view and make as strong as possible case. So let's have a look here. The exact same requirements for the introduction. So greet everybody, restate the topic of the debate, but we need to state that we're against the motion. So we're the negative team. We need to define the motion as well. So we also, we get a chance to define the motion in our own way to make our attack on the proposition team's arguments as strong as possible. So if we can get the audience to go, Oh, so yeah, I agree with them. Renewable energy, we shouldn't do this. I think it's more about what they're saying. Then we can bring the audience and the judges over to our side of the argument. So let's have a look at that. We've got our first 3 points. So again, the polite greetings, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished judges and esteemed opponents. As the first speaker of the negative team, so we're being very obvious here again, I rise to address the motion that the use of renewable energy sources should be significantly increased. So we've restated the motion. While we acknowledge the importance of sustainable energy solutions, we firmly believe that the motion put forth by the affirmative team is not without its flaws. So we're acknowledging that, yeah, they raise a good point, but there's a lot of problems with it that they haven't mentioned. So we're going to mention these problems. So you believe us more than you believe the proposition team. So allow me to present our arguments against this proposition. So we have here now again being really obvious, telling everybody what we're about to do. So firstly, again, signposting, very obvious. It is essential to recognize that while renewable energy sources have their merits, they cannot entirely replace fossil fuels in the immediate future. So this is where we start to redefine the motion or redefine the topic of the debate, where we're saying, yes, renewable energy can help us in the future perhaps, but the proposition team are arguing we need to go 100% green energy and we need to do it now. We're saying it can't be done like that. There's going to be too many problems. The intermittency and unpredictability of renewable sources like solar and wind power pose significant challenges to energy stability. So they're saying that the technology is not all there yet, and it can be unpredictable. So it might cut out, it might cause blackouts, could be problems with the electrical system. And that's going to make our energy supply very unstable. We can't rely on it. Unlike traditional power plants, which provide a steady and reliable energy supply, renewables are subject to weather conditions and require expensive energy storage systems to mitigate fluctuations. So they're saying to avoid these problems, we're going to need to spend a lot more money on it. And yeah, so we're going to have to spend a lot more money to make sure this works. Until we develop more efficient and cost-effective storage technologies, solely relying on renewables would risk compromising our energy grid's reliability. So again, we can do this in the future, but the case they're arguing is that we do it now. And right now, the technology is not there unless we're prepared to spend way too much money on it. So they're already starting to pick away at the proposition team's case. We move on. Secondly, so again, signposting. The transition to renewable energy on a massive scale necessitates substantial upfront investments. And now they're talking about just how expensive it's going to be. So again, picking away at the proposition team's case. While proponents of the motion argue for the long-term cost benefits, the immediate financial burden cannot be ignored. Many nations, especially developing ones, may struggle to afford the initial costs of implementing renewable infrastructure. So they're saying that some countries that aren't as rich as other countries, they might struggle to afford this renewable energy solution. So that's again another attempt to pick at the proposition's case. These costs could lead to higher energy prices for consumers, potentially burdening low-income households and hampering economic growth. So they're saying this could be so expensive, in fact, that it could pretty much derail an entire country's economy. It could be that bad. So in contrast, fossil fuels are a lot more affordable and accessible. Fossil fuels offer a more affordable and accessible energy option, particularly for regions heavily reliant on coal and oil. So again, everything that we've said just goes back to how much it's going to cost and the effect that that cost will have on the people that rely on the energy. Furthermore, so again, signposting, making it very obvious, we've moved on to a new issue. Increasing the use of renewable energy sources can have unintended environmental consequences. So now we're talking about bad things that can happen that we didn't mean to happen. We didn't want that to happen. It's just a consequence of moving to green energy. So the production and disposal of renewable technologies. So now again, we're going to talk about the effect of what happens when these systems start to break down and we need to fix them or we need to upgrade them. So such as solar panels and wind turbines involve the use of rare metals and chemicals that can harm ecosystems. Additionally, large-scale wind and solar projects can lead to habitat disruption and land use conflicts. So now we go into more detail about some of the problems that it can have on not only animals in their natural habitats and their ecosystems, but also humans might disagree with taking up so much space to put a wind farm or a solar farm there. So that can result in people getting into arguments and just disagreeing about what they use certain pieces of land for. As we advocate for sustainability, it is essential to consider the full environmental impact of our energy choices, not just in terms of greenhouse emissions. So the opposition are making a very strong case here for you're only thinking of one part of the environmental problems, which is the greenhouse gas emissions. But we've also got things like, again, habitat disruption. So do we have to cut down a big forest to make space for this renewable energy source? Do we have to, or are we going to have to buy or take away land from people to be able to put these energy sources on? And lastly, so again, a good signposting, making sure that we are very obvious that we're moving on. The pursuit of renewable energy should not overshadow the need to invest in clean technologies that complement existing energy sources. So the main case here being made is that, where is it here? So yeah, the main argument being made here is that the proposition team is saying, okay, we need to just do this now, just drop the old system, go straight to this green system. And the opposition is saying, but we have solutions that can work a lot better because they can work with the current energy system. So we're not going to put people out of jobs. We're not going to risk power outages and blackouts and all of those things. There's a way to do this safely and smartly. So neglecting these transitional technologies could hinder our ability to, effectively address climate change while we wait for renewable energy to reach its full potential. So again, we can transition slowly. We don't have to do it now. And we can wait for the technology to catch up with the need. So very good arguments there made by the opposition. And let's have a look here. So we've addressed the main arguments and provided rebuttals for the points made by the proposition team. Again, you should make sure that you've got evidence to back up what you're saying. So find studies, statistics, and all of those good facts to prove your case. Because anyone can say anything and make it sound convincing. So we need to make sure that we've got evidence so no one can challenge us on what we're saying. And finally, we need to make sure that we are explaining how it's weakening the affirmative team's position. We construct our counter case. So we need to make sure that we let everybody know about a different idea that can support the negative team's position. And we need to offer interesting reasons to reject the affirmative team's claim. So we can't just say, nah, they're wrong, don't listen to them, they're talking rubbish. Again, we need to have reasons and evidence to prove why they're wrong and why what they're saying is wrong. We need to then anticipate potential responses from the affirmative team. And we need to show that we've been thinking about counter arguments that they may try to make to discredit us. And then we need to quickly address how these potential arguments, we need to show that we've thought of these arguments to show that we have considered the affirmative team's point of view. So again, by showing that we've really thought about these issues well, it can show that that can make our case look a lot stronger, because we're saying, yeah, we have considered what they've said, but we think this issue is, we think this reason's true, and we think that this reason cancels out what they've just said. And then, of course, in our conclusion, we need to summarize the main arguments presented by our team. And we need to remind everyone about our team's position and why the affirmative team has not proved their case properly. So again, we just need to keep just picking away at the affirmative team's argument to make it look weak in the eyes of the audience and the judges. So in conclusion, we, the negative team, recognize the significance of renewable energy sources in the global fight against climate change. So we've immediately said, yeah, like we understand it's an important issue. We just disagree with how you are proposing that we deal with this issue. However, we firmly contend that a hasty and exclusive push towards renewables may have an adverse effect on energy reliability, economic growth, and the environment. So we've just reminded everybody about the 3 arguments that we've made. So our stance is not to dismiss the importance of renewables, but to advocate for a more balanced approach, one that integrates cleaner technologies and considers the practical challenges we face in the present. So again, we've taken the chance to redefine the topic of the debate, and we've put it in terms that we can argue and we can disagree with the proposition team. So we urge you to reject the motion and consider a more comprehensive and sustainable energy strategy. Thank you. So again, we've made that call to action. Side with us, don't believe the affirmative team, and consider our point of view, which is we can do this safely and more slowly. So are we starting to see that how to build effective arguments so that we can either prove our case well or show the weakness in the other team's case? I take that as a yes. So give me just 2 moments, guys. I'll reshare my... Okay, sorry, I just had a message I had to reply to. Okay, so now we'll check out the arguments of the second proposition speaker, and we'll see what they have to contribute to their team's argument. So again, with the introduction, greet everybody, acknowledge everybody, be respectful, remind everybody about the motion and our team's position as the affirmative team. And then we need to briefly remind everybody about the main arguments that our first speaker made. We need to reinforce and expand on the arguments made. So providing additional evidence, examples, or statistics to strengthen our team's position. And we need to, we now get the chance, sorry, to clarify any points that were challenged by the negative team. So any counter arguments they made, this is our chance to set the record straight and say, well, you said we said this, or you challenged it and put this point out, but here's what we actually think again. So we actually meant to say this. It just gives you a chance to make your arguments a bit stronger. So let's have a look here. So ladies and gentlemen, respected judges, worthy opponents, being respectful to everybody. As the second speaker of the affirmative team, I stand proudly to reiterate and further strengthen our case in favor of the motion that the use of renewable energy sources should be significantly increased. So again, we've restated the motion, reminded everyone what we're arguing about, and we've been very obvious with it. So second speaker, affirmative team. We now go over the arguments of our team.
Hello, teacher.
Hello, Tim, welcome. So recapping the arguments put forth by our first speaker. So again, being super obvious with what we're doing. We firmly established that the world faces an urgent climate crisis that demands immediate action. So yeah, in this point, we've reminded everybody our main argument, it's a serious crisis. We need to deal with this now. Renewable energy sources offer a viable solution to mitigate the impact of climate change and transition towards a sustainable future. So here we are talking about, again, reminding everybody that renewable energy is the solution to our problems. Allow me to reinforce our key arguments and respond to the counter arguments presented by the negative team. So there's our being obvious again, making sure we let everybody know what we're about to talk about. So firstly, our reliance, again, signposting, first thing we want to say, our reliance on fossil fuels perpetuates carbon emissions and exacerbates global warming. So we're now again pointing out reasons why we should move to green energy immediately. The evidence is clear and undeniable. Greenhouse gas emissions are causing irreparable harm to our planet. Increasing the use of renewable energy sources such as solar, wind, and hydroelectric power will significantly reduce carbon emissions and combat the dire consequences of climate change. So again, making this a very serious issue and saying that green energy is the way to go to stop these problems or reduce the impact of these problems. We must prioritize the health of our environment and future generations over the short-term convenience of fossil fuels. So this one's saying that, yeah, we will need to suffer a little bit to have a better outcome in the end. So short-term suffering for long-term gains, basically. We're going to gain more in the long run. We now also move on to dealing with the negative team and what they've said. In response to the negative team's claim that renewables are unreliable, we acknowledge that while intermittent energy generation can pose challenges, advancements in energy storage technologies are rapidly addressing this concern. So the proposition team are taking one of the arguments from the negative team, and they're saying, yeah, you're right, this can be a problem, but the solution already exists. So it's not even a problem now, is it? Because we've already got this solution here. It then goes on to provide examples. So innovations like grid scale batteries and pumped hydro storage enhance the stability and reliability of renewable energy supply, ensuring a consistent power source for all our energy needs. So again, they're saying, well, you've said that this can be unreliable, but here's the technology we need to make this problem go away. Moreover, grid modernization and smarter energy management systems enable us to efficiently integrate renewables into our existing energy infrastructure. So again, dealing with another issue, saying that not only does the technology exist to make this a more reliable source of energy, but the technology exists so that we can move away from fossil fuels without just suddenly cutting it and having all of these big problems. So they're just constantly providing reasons to strengthen their case. Secondly, the financial investment required to transition to renewable energy is an investment in our future. So now we're talking about, yes, you've said that, yes, you've said that it's going to be expensive, but we're going to invest in the future so it can be cheaper in the long run. So yes, the initial cost can be significant, but the long-term benefits far outweigh them. Studies consistently show that the economic advantages of renewable energy adoption, such as reduced healthcare costs, job creation, and energy savings, offset the upfront expenses. So they've provided some good evidence here by saying studies consistently show, so they're citing a source here, or they're letting you know where they got the information from. And then they've provided some good examples. So healthcare will get cheaper because there won't be as many people with like lung issues, going back to the argument made by the first speaker. They say that it can create jobs and it offers energy savings. So it's going to work out cheaper as well. And that will all cancel, or not cancel out, but it will make the upfront amount of money that it costs more acceptable when you start saving money in the future. We must recognize, is that your brother, Tim?
Yes, I do.
Hello, Tim's brother. So we must recognize the economic opportunities inherent in renewable technologies and seize the chance to be at the forefront of this green energy revolution. So what they're saying here is, again, yes, it'll be expensive now, but you're going to end up saving a lot more money in the future. So this is just such a smart move to make. We need to do it now. So creating that sense of urgency and importance in the argument. We then go on to address the negative team's concern and come up with a rebuttal to what they've said. So addressing the negative team's concern about rare metals used in renewable technology production, we acknowledge that responsible sourcing and recycling practices are essential. So, excuse me. So once again, we're saying that, yes, we recognize you've raised a good issue and a problem here, and we're already providing a solution. And then we also go on to say, we also go on to rebut against their argument by saying, but fossil fuels cause problems like this too. It's not just our green energy that it's not just our green energy solution that creates these problems. So we must not overlook the severe environmental degradation caused by fossil fuel extraction. Oil spills, deforestation, and air pollution are just a few examples of the devastating consequences of our current energy sources. Embracing renewables is a step towards cleaner production and a more sustainable world. So they've provided good examples here. So oil spills, very severe, have a very bad impact on the ocean and the animals and the plant life that live in the ocean. Deforestation, so again, if we're digging up fossils digging up fossil fuels, sometimes we need to, yes.
Is the pollution of is the pollution of sound make do the pollution of the sound make anything of the environment?
Sound pollution.
Yes.
So talking about noise pollution, I don't know enough about it to give a proper answer, if I'm honest, but based on what I do know, I think noise pollution is just, it's more to do with human environment. So if you're living in an apartment building, for example, and you're playing your music at full volume and you're disturbing all your neighbors and causing disruptions and just being unthoughtful in general, I think that's just noise pollution. I think that's just a fancy term they've made up for annoying your neighbors. However, I could be wrong, but I think that's what it is. So deforestation, we're talking about sometimes to dig up fossil fuels out of the ground, we might need to rip a whole bunch of forests apart to be able to get to the fossil fuels below the ground. And air pollution from not only digging it out of the ground, but producing the actual fuels that are made with it. And also burning the fuels can put those toxic fumes into the air. Where are we?
Teacher, is the waste? What about the everyone is wasting the food?
Everyone that's wasting food. That one I'm personally, again, not sure about. From what I've heard is that we actually produce enough food every year to feed, I think, 110 to 115% of the global population. I think it's just the way that that food is given out. So I think that's more to do with countries like America, Australia, England, Europe and stuff like that. The richer countries, they can afford more food, so they get more food. Some of the poorer countries that can't afford the food, they don't get the food. It's unfortunate, but that's the way that that's the way that the distribution works. If you pay for it, you can get it. But still, if you get food, you should eat it. You shouldn't waste it. Wasting food is bad. So embracing renewables is a step towards cleaner production and a more sustainable world. So again, tying it back to the issue, embracing renewable energy will create a cleaner world, have less pollution. And lastly, we appreciate the importance of transitioning technologies, but we cannot afford to delay decisive action. So here they're saying, yes, we appreciate that you think that we can't just change, but we can't afford to wait any longer. We don't have time to we don't have time to transition. We need to just get to green energy now. So again, there they are just trying to take apart any counter arguments made by the opposition. While advancements in clean coal and natural gas are valuable, they still contribute to greenhouse gas emissions. We must prioritize a rapid transition to renewable energy sources while exploring ways to make.
What is the gas is the air pollution.
Yeah, well, gas can contribute to air pollution, absolutely. But gas is an actual type of fuel. So you've got things like oil, petrol, natural gas. They're all just different types of fuels, but they all can release those toxic fumes that create air pollution.
It's helium.
Helium is a type of gas, yes. I'm not sure how it's made or where it's found. But yeah, helium is a type of gas.
Hydrogen.
Again, not sure, but I do know that it is another type of gas. Not sure where it's found though. But yeah, so those gases that you've mentioned, they're not actually the air pollution we're talking about, because they're all created to use for their specific uses. But if they're released into the environment, then they can create air pollution. But those gases aren't the air pollution necessarily if they're used properly. So
I don't know.
Anyway, let's finish this off, and then we want to take a quick look at how to close an argument. So we must prioritize a rapid transition to renewable energy sources while exploring ways to make these transitional technologies cleaner and more efficient. So what the proposition team are arguing here to make the case stronger, we need to take action now, and we can deal with any problems as they come up. So it's more important now to take this action to create a cleaner environment. In conclusion, the affirmative team firmly believes that significantly increasing the use of renewable energy sources is not just a matter of choice, it's an obligation to safeguard our planet and future generations. So they're saying the argument they're summing up with here is saying that it's not just something that would be nice to do, it's something that we need to do. It's very important to protect the future generations. The time for decisive action is now. By embracing renewable energy, we can combat climate change, enhance energy reliability, create economic opportunities, and protect our environment. So again, we're just going back over the arguments that we've made. We urge the audience and esteemed judges to support the affirmative team's position and pave the way for a brighter and sustainable future. Thank you. So we've summed up our argument well, and then we have asked everybody to be on our side. And now to finish off, let's just take a look at the third closing speaker. Sorry, guys, I was just admiring my roommate's dinner. Okay, so looking at the third speaker. So we know the third speaker's job is to summarize your team's case. So once again, we have the introduction. We need to reinforce and summarize our team's arguments. And then we need to address any of the negative team's arguments. We also need to highlight why we've got the advantage in this debate, and we've got to make sure that they understand that we've got the superior opinion. We need to address a few more things. So why is it so important that the audience and the judges believe us? And we also need to address things like the practicalities of it. So how easy is it to do? and will there be many problems with it? And then finally, we sum it up with the conclusion, and let's take a look at the speech. So, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished judges and respected opponents, as the third speaker of the affirmative team, I rise to conclude our compelling case in support of the motion that the use of renewable energy sources should be significantly increased. So we've gone straight through with our respectful greetings, citing the motion again, and letting everyone know our point of view. Throughout this debate, we have presented a cohesive and robust argument in favor of transitioning to renewable energy. So we're pointing out now that all three members have worked together as a team. We've built on each other's arguments to make our case as strong as possible, and that we've provided a lot of information. Allow me to reinforce our key points and address the concerns raised by the negative team. So one final chance to reinforce the case, make it stronger, and address any concerns raised by the negative team. So again, signposting. Firstly, we firmly established that climate change is an imminent threat that demands urgent action. So they've repeatedly stated their main point. This is serious. We need to deal with it now. The overwhelming scientific consensus supports the link between human activities and global warming. So citing a bit of evidence there, saying that pretty much all the scientists are saying that humans are causing global warming. By significantly increase, yes.
Does carbon dioxide make the global warming?
Yes, I believe it does. Carbon dioxide has an effect on the ozone layer. That's why trees are so important, because trees turn carbon dioxide back into oxygen for us, keeps us all healthy and keeps the ozone layer healthy. So yeah, by significantly increasing the use of renewable energy, we can significantly reduce greenhouse gas emissions, slow down the pace of climate change, and protect our planet for future generations. So we've gone back over a lot of the important reasons. So we can reduce greenhouse gas emissions, slow down the pace of climate change, and protect our planet. So we're just, again, going back to those reasons, making them seem all very important, trying to build that case to say, we need to take action now. Addressing the negative team's claim about the reliability of renewable energy, we acknowledge that some challenges exist. So again, we don't have the perfect point of view, but here's our solutions for it. However, technological advancements and innovative solutions are already addressing these concerns. So they're saying these aren't even really problems anymore. Grid modernization, energy storage technologies, and smart energy management systems are overcoming the intermittency of renewables and ensuring a stable energy supply. So again, making the case that what these guys have said, it was a problem, but we've got the solution here. So always trying to find ways to make the other team's arguments seem like they don't matter, or that, yeah, that they're not important, because here's the solution. Furthermore, the negative team argued that the transition to renewables would entail substantial upfront costs. So we're going to negate the cost factor now. While it is true that the initial investments might be significant, we must consider the long-term benefits and the cost of inaction. So there's going to be a lot more serious problem, and it's going to be even more expensive if we don't take action now. Failing to address climate change will lead to far more devastating economic consequences. Yes, Tim?
It's out of time now.
Another minute and then we'll be done. Another minute or two and then we'll be finished. Okay. So yeah, so now we're going to go on to list some reasons why there's going to be even bigger problems. So increased weather event, extreme weather events, rising sea levels, and disruptions to food and water supplies. So again, we're going to respond to the next argument. I'll speed it up. So in response to the negative team's concerns about job losses, so we're going to deal with their next issue now, and we're going to give a solution to that. That means it's not really an issue. So governments and business can invest in retraining, support the workforce in transitioning to renewable energy industries, and that in fact, it can offer even more job opportunities. So we're not creating a problem, we're fixing a problem. So to always try and find a way to spin those problems into opportunities for solution. Furthermore, we cannot afford to ignore the global consensus and commitment. So now we're talking about, this isn't just an our team issue, the other countries around the world are all thinking this. The Paris Agreement and other international accords, they underscore the urgency of adopting renewable energy solutions. Embracing renewable energy demonstrates our commitment to a sustainable future and positions us as leaders in the global fight. So again, giving us the chance to seem like the first people to do it, like we're going to be the leaders. Everyone loves to feel good and strong and powerful. So if we're the leaders, we're the first to do this, then yeah, it can make people feel good. And that's a good way to convince them to do something. And then in conclusion, we sum everything up by saying we have presented these arguments and we've emphasized the urgent need for a shift towards renewable energy. If we significantly increase the use of energy, renewable energy, then we go on to list all the things we can fight. So we can fight climate change, ensure energy security, and create economic opportunities and protect the environment. So all these good reasons to just try and leave everyone with just the best possible view of our argument. So that's class time, guys. I will see you next Tuesday.
Hello, Mr. Mitchell.
Oh, goodness. Hello, Ben. I'll see you later, guys. See you on Tuesday. See you on Tuesday.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Well, then when will you